Down you go. Not recognize. Get lost. Silence. Farewell.
If you want to get more closely acquainted with Vergil's Doppelganger mechanic, I strongly encourage you to watch my first video, which is basically this Doppelganger guide, where I go very in-depth into the basics, the rudimentary aspects of this mechanic. The link to that video will be in the description below, so yeah. So first things first, before I start talking about the combo and the mistakes you can make and all that jazz, I should preface this by talking about my controls. So, I play this game using my mouse and keyboard. Yeah, really. Blasphemy, I know. But I think that if you've ever played a single game on your PC using a mouse and a keyboard, these controls should be familiar to you. I think they're very easy to grasp. So, just like with almost every game ever, WASD are the keys you use for movement. So W is forward, S is backwards, A is left, D is right. This is the equivalent to you using your analog stick for moving, like tilting it left, right, forward, backward. That's basically what I use. So again, W forward, S backward, A left, D right. Obviously, just like in every game ever, space is jump. So I jump using space. The left mouse button, unsurprisingly, is the attack button. Also, like in every game ever. The right mouse button is the button I use for Mirage Blades. So all my Mirage Blade attacks are mapped to the right button. The right mouse button, I mean. So that's basically it for these basic controls. Shift is the button I use for locking on. So when I lock on, I press Shift. In this game, you gotta be locked on for just about any attack ever. Only under specific circumstances should you release the lock on. But yeah, basically lock on is Shift in my case. So next up we've got the trick action. So, trick up, down, air trick, all that stuff. I use E. So E is the button I use. So if I press E without locking on, that is trick up. If I press E while locking on, like Shift plus E, that is air trick, and I teleport. If I press back to forward plus E, or S plus W plus E, that is trick down. So, like I said, E is the trick action. That's the button I use for tricking, basically. R is the button I use for taunting. So that's the taunt button. Air taunts, lock on taunts, doesn't matter. R is the button you gotta press for taunting. Moving on, I have F, and F is the button I use to charge my Sindal trigger. So I press and hold F, then I release it, and I basically go into my Sindal trigger mode. Moving on, we also have 1 and 2. So 1 is the button for changing the weapon to the right. So my layout is as follows. I use the default layout for my weapons, my arsenal. So it goes Yamato, Beowulf, Mirage Edge. So if I have the Yamato equipped and I press 1, it will switch to Beowulf, which is the weapon to its right. And if I press 1 again, it will switch from Beowulf to the Mirage Edge, which is the weapon to its right. If I have the Yamato equipped, and I press 2, it will go to the weapon that's on its left, and that is the Mirage Edge. If I press 2 again, it will switch to Beowulf. If I press 2 again, it will once again switch to the Yamato. So that's how this works. We're switching weapons left and right. That's how it works. Moving on, we have the Doppelganger buttons. So the buttons are as follows. X is the slow Doppelganger. This is a Doppelganger that is kind of delayed by about, I don't know, half a second or something. So that's X. C is the normal Doppelganger. He is slightly delayed, not by half a second, but like he's just not completely in sync with you. So that's C. And V is the haste version of the doppelganger who is completely in sync with you, meaning that he immediately reacts to your commands and he mimics your inputs. He registers them immediately and simply reacts to them. So, yeah. I deactivate the doppelganger by pressing Z. So that's how I do it. And, you know, that's pretty much that. Those are all the controls, really. There are some other things like, you know, using CTRL to basically lock onto multiple targets, or, I mean, switch the lock on, stuff like that, or using the arrows, using, you know, it just doesn't matter, really. These are the main things that you will need. So, if I say, I'm pressing D plus left mouse button, that means that I'm pressing right plus attack button. If I say I'm pressing S plus W plus left mouse button, that means I'm pressing back to forward plus attack button. Kind of like tilting your analog stick back and then forward and then pressing the attack button. So that's how it works. If I say back to forward plus right mouse button, or S plus W plus right mouse button, that is basically back to forward plus your Mirage Blade button. So heavy rain blades in my case. But don't worry, most of the time, like 99% of the time, I'll say right plus attack button instead of D plus left mouse button, because I feel like that's more universally comprehensible, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, these are my controls, and now let's talk about the actual combo. Alright, so now we got the Sanctuary combo, and the first half of this combo is from one of Soli's combos, and the second half of the combo is from one of Gun 201's combos, so I kind of mixed these two and created this combo. Now, originally this combo was called the Subway combo, and I did it in the subway, you know, Mission 7, and it was the easiest combo that I did. It was among the first combos that I did, and I basically copied Soli's entire combo, but instead of using Hell on Earth, I used Beowulf combo B. Now, I realized that, hey, you know, something's lacking. It's not a doppelganger combo, it's pretty simple. And then I eventually saw Gun 201's combo, and I took this one segment from there, and I kind of mixed these two together. Now, the thing is, the reason I had to change the stage, and, you know, this is like some kind of, I don't know, it's like a shrine, a tomb, I don't really know, a sanctuary in Mission 9. The reason I had to pick this stage is because it's simply, you know, more spacious. That subway stage in Mission 7 is way too small. You don't have enough, you know, wiggle room. You don't have enough leeway to actually do the combo because the benches kind of obstruct you. Even the subway combo, like the first combo, was hard to do, but this combo would be downright impossible, so I needed a bigger stage. So when starting this combo, you need to have the Storm Blades active. So when you're on the left side, you press the left plus Mirage Blade button, and you keep holding the Mirage Blade button. You don't let go of it. So in my case, I press A plus right mouse button, and I don't let go of the right mouse button. So that's how this works. So you need to have Beowulf equipped, and you basically use Beast Uppercut. And now, you let go of the lock-on, you press right plus Trig button. Or in my case, I let go of Shift, and I press D plus E. So you use Trig Dodge after using Beast Uppercut. So again, you use Beast Uppercut, you let go of the lock-on, and you press right plus Trig button. Now you lock on again, and you use Lunar Phase. And then you jump cancel, you enemy step this Lunar Phase into Starfall. So what you're supposed to do is you press you press the left plus attack button, which is Lunar Phase, and while using Lunar Phase, you press jump to enemy step, and now you press the attack button to use Starfall. So that's basically how this works. You enemy step, you jump cancel, the Lunar Phase into Starfall. Now you switch to the Yamato and you wait just a little bit, not too long, but you wait just a little bit, and you use Rapid Slash. Alright, so this is the part that I gotta explain. Rapid Slash, when you're on the right side, is a left plus attack button, or in my case, A plus left mouse button. And that's Rapid Slash. But you have to hold the attack button, or the left mouse button, while you're using Rapid Slash, so as to use this perfect judgment cut, right? But there are a few issues here. So if you press left and you hold the attack button, you will end up using Rising Star, because Rising Star is left plus holding the attack button. But if you use left plus attack button without holding it, you'll just do a regular rapid slash without any judgment cut. So what you need to do, essentially, is you press left plus attack button, and immediately, you let go of the attack button, like left plus attack button, you let go of the attack button for a fraction of a millisecond, and then you immediately press it again, and you keep holding it, and then you release it at the right time to do this perfect judgment cut. So let me go over this again. So after you jump cancel the lunar phase into Starfall, after you enemy step and use Starfall, you switch to the Yamato and you use Rapid Slash. You press left plus attack button, you let go of the attack button for like a fraction of a second, and you press it again, and you keep holding it, and you keep holding it, and you only release it in time to do this perfect judgment cut. Another mistake that can arise from all this is you end up holding the attack button for too long before releasing it, and Vergil ends up doing this regular judgment cut instead of the perfect version. This is not what you want, because if Vergil ends up doing a regular judgment cut instead of the perfect version, what's going to happen is he will do this backdash, and, the enemy will simply fall to the ground, and that's not what you want. So it's very important to keep all of this in mind. If you don't hold the attack button long enough, what's going to happen is there will be no judgment cut. But if you hold it for too long before releasing it, well, you'll do a regular judgment cut. So you need to have this perfect timing to know exactly when to do a perfect judgment cut. And for this, you need muscle memory. There are videos explaining this, and it comes with practice. But it's pretty easy, believe me. And don't forget that if you press select and you hold the attack button immediately after canceling Lunar Phase into Starfall, that will result in you using Rising Star, which is not what you want. So you gotta press the attack button, not hold it. But then you let go of it, and then you hold it again. So yeah. So after using this perfect judgment cut, you basically switch to the Mirage Edge and you use Million Stab. And now, while using Million Stab, you use High Time 1. So you press left plus attack button. You want to use the high time that only launches the enemy into the air, not Vergil himself. So you don't hold the attack button, you just press left plus attack button. You press the attack button, you don't hold it. So this will launch the enemy into the air, and now you use Stinger, which is right plus attack button, and you keep holding the attack button. Now you use Air Trick to teleport to the enemy who is in the air, and you use Helmbreaker, which is just pressing the attack button once. And you keep holding the attack button while you're doing all of this. And the moment you use Air Trick to teleport to the enemy who's in the air, you basically start charging your Sin Double triggers. So you press, in my case, I press and hold F, and I keep charging my Sin DT. So while I'm using all this, while I'm using Air Trick, Helmbreaker, all that stuff. So basically now, you keep holding the double trigger, or the Sin DT button, and after using Helmbreaker, after you've pinned the enemy to the ground, you wait just a little bit for the enemy to gain some distance, and now you let go of the Mirage Blade button, finally. This will cause the enemy to get a launch into the air by the Storm Blades. So they will be in the air, and now you simultaneously release the attack button, or the left mouse button, to throw Round Trip. So, when you press and hold the attack button with the Mirage Edge for more than a second and a half, you release the attack button, you will activate Round Trip. So that's why you have to hold the attack button. So now, like I said, you let go of the right mouse button, or the Mirage Blade button, and then shortly afterwards you let go of, the left mouse button, or the attack button. So now this will cause the enemy to land directly onto the Round Trip, which will start cutting them up. And at this point, you finally finish charging your Sin DT, and you go into your Sin DT. So that's basically this first half of the combo, if you will. Now you summon the haste version of the Doppelganger, the one who is in sync with you and, reacts to your commands immediately. So you summon the haste version of the Doppelganger, and you press left plus attack button. So this will cause two things to happen. Now, let me explain. So the thing that's going to happen is Vergil's Doppelganger will use Rapid Slash, and Vergil will cause the Mirage Blade to go back to his position. Now, let me explain why this happens. So, Vergil has the Mirage Edge equipped, and as you already know, Round Trip is active. So, when Round Trip is active, when it's spinning, and you press the attack button with the Mirage Edge, what's going to happen is the Round Trip will stop spinning, and the Mirage Edge will go back to your position, basically. So, when you have the Mirage Edge equipped, and Round Trip is active, you can use any of the attacks with the Mirage Edge. The millisecond, the moment you press the attack button with the Mirage Edge while Round Trip is active, the Mirage Edge will go back to Vergil's position like a boomerang. So, in this case, we press left plus attack button, and what happens is the Mirage Edge goes back to Vergil's position because we pressed the attack button. But we also pressed left plus attack button, and why is that? Well, it's so that the Doppelganger could use Rapid Slash. So Vergil has the Mirage Edge equipped, but the Doppelganger can only use the Yamato. So when you're on the right side, on the ground, and you press left plus attack button with the Yamato, that is Rapid Slash, and the Doppelganger reacts to your commands. So when you press left plus attack button, that causes the Doppelganger to use Rapid Slash. But since Vergil has the Mirage Edge equipped and Round Trip is active, pressing the attack button will cause the Mirage Edge to go back to Vergil's position. Now, if we had only pressed the attack button and nothing but the attack button, what would have happened is the Mirage Edge would have gone back to Vergil's position because, we pressed the attack button, but the Doppelganger would not have used Rapid Slash. Instead, he would have used one hit with the Yamato on the ground because we only pressed the attack button once, and the Doppelganger has the Yamato, so pressing the attack button once with the Yamato on the ground causes the Doppelganger to use one hit with the Yamato, which is why we need to press left plus attack button, and the Doppelganger will use Rapid Slash, and the Mirage Edge will go back to Vergil's position. So that is how this part works. So now you switch to the Yamato, and you press right, and you hold the attack button. And this will cause Vergil to use upper slash 2, and his Doppelganger to use Rising Star. Now let me explain why that is. So when you're on the right side, on the ground with the Yamato, and you press right and you hold the attack button, that is upper slash 2. But when you're on the left side, on the ground with the Yamato, pressing right and holding the attack button is Rising Star. And Vergil is on the right side, whereas his Doppelganger is on the left side, so Vergil will use upper slash 2 with the Yamato, whereas his Doppelganger will use Rising Star. So that's kind of important, that's why this happens. If you don't hold the attack button, if you only press right plus attack button without holding it, what's going to happen is Vergil will use upper slash 1, and his Doppelganger will use Rapid Slash. So that will cause the combo to fail. Because when you're on the left side, on the ground with the Yamato, pressing right plus attack button is Rapid Slash, but pressing right and holding the attack button is Rising Star. So that's why you need to hold the attack button. So anyway, after using upper slash 2 with the Yamato, you don't waste a millisecond, you immediately use Trig Down, and you immediately use Rapid Slash, which is left plus attack button. So now you basically, both Vergil and the Doppelganger will be on the left side. But Vergil is on the ground, whereas the Doppelganger is in midair. So now you press left and you hold the attack button. So this will cause Vergil to use upper slash 2 with the Yamato again, and this will also cause his Doppelganger to use aerial cleave. Because when you're on the left side on the ground with the Yamato, pressing left and holding the attack button is upper slash 2, but pressing left plus attack button when you're on the left side in midair with the Yamato will cause you to use aerial cleave, and the Doppelganger reacts to your commands, so he uses aerial cleave. So it's very important, again, to hold the attack button, because if you press the left plus attack button without holding it, what's going to happen is Vergil will use upper slash 1 instead of upper slash 2, and this will, this won't cause him to get a launch into the air. You want Vergil to get a launch into the air. This is incredibly important, otherwise the combo won't work. So again, you press the left and you hold the attack button, Vergil uses upper slash 2, and the Doppelganger uses aerial cleave. And this, aerial cleave causes this bounce back effect where the enemy gets kind of pinned to the ground and then he bounces back into the air. So now you switch to the Mirage Edge and you use Air Stinger, which is right plus attack button, but you gotta hold the attack button for a very long time. So now, like I said, you use Air Stinger and you immediately deactivate the Doppelganger after he's done using aerial cleave. This is very important. So you use Air Stinger with the Mirage Edge, which is right plus holding the attack button, and you keep holding the attack button, and you keep holding it until your Mirage Edge starts glowing, and now you throw one Mirage Blade at the enemy. As you can see here, you throw one Mirage Blade at the enemy to keep them from falling to the ground, to keep them airborne. If you don't use this one Mirage Blade, if you don't throw a Mirage Blade at the enemy, this will happen. So the enemy will simply fall to the ground before you can use Round Trip. So it's very important to basically use this Mirage Blade to keep the enemy airborne. It's very, very important. So again, like I said, you press right and you hold the attack button, you throw one Mirage Blade at the enemy, and now when your Mirage Edge starts glowing, you release the attack button so that Vergil could use Round Trip, alright? And now that you've basically trapped the enemy in the air with Round Trip, you immediately use Trig Down to teleport to the ground, and this is really, really important. Pay very, very close attention to this. Alright, so now that you're on the ground, now that you're done using Trig Down, you switch to Beowulf, and this is incredibly important. So you switch to Beowulf, and you let go of the lock-on, in my case I let go of Shift, and you press backwards. So I let go of Shift and I press and hold S. So you let go of the lock-on and you press and hold backwards, alright? So now, for the first two hits of Beowulf Combo B, you basically keep holding backwards. See how I'm holding S while I'm using the first two hits of Beowulf Combo B? Yeah, that's what you gotta do. So, again, you let go of the lock-on, you press backwards, and you hold backwards, and you use the first two hits of Beowulf Combo B. So, I press the attack button around 3 times or so. And now, you make this pause, because this pause is required for Beowulf Combo B after the first two hits. And now, after this pause, you press forward, or in my case, I press W, and you continue mashing. So this is how it works. You continue mashing, and don't forget to charge that last hit of Beowulf Combo B, the Tetsu Zanko, and when the enemy is basically about to fall to the ground, you release the attack button, and you hit the enemy with your wings with the last hit of SDT Beowulf Combo B. And this is the end of the combo. So the reason I'm mentioning this, the reason this is so important is if you don't hold backwards, if you don't let go of the lock-on, and if you don't hold backwards while using the first two hits of Beowulf Combo B, what's going to happen is this. So as you can see here, I used Trig Down, and I immediately locked on, and I just kept using Beowulf Combo B normally. So if you do it normally, this is what happens. Vergil basically will not be able to hit the enemy with the last hit of Beowulf Combo B. And the reason this happens is because he will basically he won't gain enough distance. You need to gain some distance with the first two hits of Beowulf Combo B to kind of step away from the enemy. And then you go back, you press forward, and you go back to the enemy. If you don't gain enough distance, if you don't press backward and all that, if you just use the combo normally, the wings will not hit the enemy and the combo will fail. And additionally, the reason you're supposed to charge the last hit is because obviously if you don't charge it, you will hit the air. You know, you will hit the air before the enemy actually is about to fall to the ground. So this is very, very important. So one of the issues you can encounter with this combo, I'm not really sure if this is like a mistake per se, but it's very frequent. So you know how after using Lunar Phase, you're supposed to enemy step and jump cancel it into Starfall, and then you're supposed to use Rapid Slash with the Yamato. So if you use Rapid Slash immediately after using Starfall, like you don't wait even a single moment, what's going to happen is once you're done using the Perfect Judgment Cut and you use Million Stab, Vergil will use this inverted Million Stab because of the enemy's altitude. So the combo can still work though, like even if you use this inverted Million Stab, it's not really an issue per se. Most of the time the combo will work, but for some reason it was pissing me off. So if you use Rapid Slash too early, if you don't wait for the enemy to lose enough altitude, what's going to happen is once you use Million Stab, Vergil will use this inverted Million Stab. But if you wait too long for the enemy to lose altitude, they might fall to the ground. So before you even use Rapid Slash, the enemy will be on the ground, and this it's considered a fail, basically. So, yeah. Here you can see how I released the Mirage Blade button, or well, the right mouse button, too early before the enemy even hit the ground, so they got launched into the air very early. And here you can see how I released the right mouse button, or well, the Mirage Blade button, too early, and it almost failed. It kind of did, actually. So even though the enemy did get caught by the round trip somehow, by some miracle, the combo, this is still a fail, and this is why I keep saying, once you pin the enemy to the ground with Helmbreaker, don't immediately release the Mirage Blade button. Wait for the enemy to, like, roll on the ground a little. Wait for them to gain a little bit of distance before you release the Mirage Blade button and launch them into the air with Storm Blades. So don't immediately release the Mirage Blade button, or well, the right mouse button, the moment they hit the ground. Wait for them to gain some distance, and then you basically release the Mirage Blade button. Because as you can see here, I didn't wait, and the combo kind of failed. It was a quasi-fail. Here you can see how I wasn't holding the attack button long enough, so round trip didn't come out. You need to hold it for a very long time until your Mirage Edge starts glowing. Otherwise, you won't get round trip. So, yeah. Here you can see this issue that I simply cannot explain. This is the most recurring issue with this combo, and unfortunately, it's one of those things that I don't know how to explain. Or, well, I know how to explain it perfectly, but I don't know how to help you prevent this. I don't know how to circumvent this. And what this issue is about is the Doppelganger ends up using Rapid Slash instead of Rising Star. So you know how you're supposed to press right and hold the attack button? And when you're on the left side, on the ground with the Yamato, pressing right and holding the attack button is Rising Star. And pressing right plus attack button without holding the attack button, that is Rapid Slash, right? But here's the thing. I am clearly pressing right and holding the attack button, but the Doppelganger is using Rapid Slash instead of Rising Star. And why is this happening? Well, it's because of the enemy's altitude. They are too high up in the air while they're being cut up by the round trip. And you know the golden rule for Rising Star? So when you're on the left side, on the ground with the Yamato, and you press right and you hold the attack button, that is Rising Star. But if the enemy is too high up in the air, even if you press right and you hold the attack button, you will use Rapid Slash instead of Rising Star, because Rising Star only activates upon contact with the enemy. And in this case, Vergil's Doppelganger can't make contact with the enemy because they are too high up in the air, so he ends up using Rapid Slash instead of Rising Star. He can't make contact with the enemy, obviously. I don't know how to help you with this. This has happened a billion times. You can see this on the screen. These are all different instances, by the way, and these are only some of the instances I was able to record. There were so many more, and I'm really not sure how to help you with this. Sometimes the enemy will simply be too high up in the air while they're being cut up by the round trip, and Vergil's Doppelganger will simply use Rapid Slash instead of Rising Star, even though you're pressing right and holding the attack button, simply because they can't make contact with the enemy. And this is beyond frustrating, so yeah, I'm really sorry. Here, this is another issue that tends to happen. It also happened with the Market combo. So the Doppelganger uses Rising Star, but the Rising Star doesn't launch the enemy into the air because they're like shaking, they're like shuddering or something. I don't know why. I think it's got to do with the Rapid Slash that the Doppelganger did previously. And this causes the enemy to like convulse like this. And while they're like shaking like this, even though the Doppelganger is using Rising Star, the enemy won't get launched into the air. This isn't very frequent at all, but it can definitely happen. I don't know why. It's not very frequent though, like I said, so you shouldn't worry about it too much. Here you can see how I waited too long before using Rapid Slash. So what ended up happening was the Doppelganger ended up using Aerial Cleave before I could use Upper Slash 2. He used Aerial Cleave before I even got to the left side. So, yeah. And here you can see how I waited too long to use Trig down, and the same exact thing happened. The Doppelganger used Aerial Cleave before I could use Upper Slash 2, so we weren't in sync. Here you can see how the Doppelganger completely messed up Rising Star. I think it's an altitude issue, like they kind of did this reverse Rising Star. I have no idea what happened, but whatever. So here you can see how the Doppelganger used Aerial Cleave, but there was no bounce back effect. So as you already know, when you use Aerial Cleave, it basically pins the enemy to the ground, and then once the enemy is pinned to the ground, they immediately jump back into the air. This is very important for this combo because you're supposed to use Air Stinger, and you're supposed to capitalize on the fact that the enemy is in the air, that this bounce back effect takes place. But if the enemy doesn't bounce back into the air, they will stay on the ground and you won't be able to use Air Stinger. So why does this happen? Well, this happens because of the altitude. And again, I don't know how to help you with this. So you know, when you use Aerial Cleave, basically, and if the enemy is on the same altitude as you, using Aerial Cleave will cause the enemy to get pinned to the ground and then they will bounce back into the air. But if the enemy is higher up in the air than you are, which is the case in this instance here with the Doppelganger, when you use Aerial Cleave, the enemy will either not get pinned to the ground, or they will get pinned to the ground, but they won't bounce back into the air. This happens with some other combos, and unfortunately, I have no idea how to help you. It's an altitude issue, but I don't know why it takes place. It's very, very frustrating. So, yeah. Here you can see how round trip didn't come out because I wasn't holding the attack button long enough. This is obviously very important. You're supposed to release the attack button when your Mirage Edge starts glowing. And also don't forget that one Mirage Blade. So, yeah. And here you can see how I didn't use Trig down. I simply descended to the ground after using round trip. And, you know, it's not an issue per se, but it doesn't look stylish. So, these are some of the additional mistakes you can make. I've already gone over all those things with Beowulf combo B, with the Mirage Blade, you know, Upper Slash and all that. So, I think that about wraps it up. So, yeah.